one of my biggest light bulb moments was at an after-school science club when we learned how to extract DNA from an onion. Fascinating. An architect called Mick Pierce, he wanted to create a building that was energy efficient. He took inspiration from one of our world's most incredible super societies. You can't actually see them on the roads, but you can see their handiwork. Huge towering mounds. Empathy marketing is a strategy that focuses on understanding and connecting with customers on an emotional level. One concept or one principle that we can use in conjunction with that is something that I came across called the pleasure-pain principle. And so Velcro, which now grosses over $1 billion every single year, was inspired by curiosity around sticky seeds.
So Patrick, you're a science communicator, which is very exciting. We need the science. Tell us a little about your moment of when you decided to do what you're doing and what you're doing now and what we can learn from that.
Yeah, sure. So I work as a wildlife TV presenter, science communicator, author. In terms of my journey to becoming a science communicator, that started when I was really young. A number of different kind of aha moments. I like to say that there are two groups of people, two camps of people that really inspired me. On one hand, you had the producers, directors, and writers of science fiction. So Star Trek and Star Wars, really loved those franchises when I was a kid. And then on the other hand were the producers, directors, and presenters of a little show that some of you might remember called Tomorrow's World. Show of hands for anybody that remembers Tomorrow's World. Yes, okay, cool. Those were the big inspirations for me, and that kind of drew me towards wanting to learn more about science and also speak about it, communicate about it. One of my biggest light bulb moments was at an after-school science club when we learned how to extract DNA from an onion. That was fascinating, just like a light bulb moment. Bing! That all led to me studying for a degree in cancer biology and then a master's in science communication, and then eventually got my first gig as a runner and edit assistant at the Natural History Unit in Bristol. They make all the big shows like Frozen Planet, Planet Earth, and got to learn from some of the best science communicators and effective communicators in the world. So that was Steve Backshall, Gordon Buchanan, and literally working side by side with David Attenborough, the man, the myth, the legend. An amazing experience. And then got my first gig as a wildlife TV presenter in 2013 with my show Super Senses, The Secret Power of Animals. In terms of what I'm doing right now, I'm focusing on the world of biomimicry. Again, show of hands, anybody know about biomimicry? A few? Okay, cool, awesome, nice. So for those of you that have never heard about that, that's the field of nature-inspired innovations, learning from the natural world. So I think we might have time for two stories. Should we give you quick two stories? Yeah. Quick, okay, cool. So the first story of biomimicry that many of you would have actually been encountered. To tell that story, we start with a guy called George de Mestral, an engineer. He used to love going for hikes in the Swiss mountains, but the trouble was he'd come back and his trousers, his dog would be covered in these cocklebur seeds. You and I would probably rip off those seeds. Okay, chill out, have a cuppa. But he, being an engineer, wanted to find out how this worked. So he looked under the microscope, looked at these seeds, and these seeds had these little hooks on them. And so he was like, okay, what's going on here? He realized the hooks were hooking onto the fibers of his pants, of his trousers, on his dog. And that's when he created his own hook and loop system, which we all know is called, 1, 2, 3? Velcro. Velcro, exactly. And so Velcro, which now grosses over $1 billion every single year, all the Velcro brands brings in over $1 billion every year, was inspired by curiosity around sticky seeds.
If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Liking this video does wonders for the channel and helps to spread this content to more people just like you.
When we think about sustainability, biomimicry is also playing a great role there. A story that I covered was an architect called Mick Pierce. He wanted to create a building that was energy efficient. So he took inspiration from one of our world's most incredible super societies. And I went on an expedition to film this super society in Namibia, and to see that you can't actually see them on the roads, but you can see their handiwork. Huge towering mounds. I'm talking about termites. Now, their nest isn't in that whole mound, it's at the bottom, and they have the challenge of recycling air to keep the air fresh and not get stale. So how their mounds work is that the outside of the mound gets really hot, and so the air rises, which means that the air in the central chimney falls down, so you get this cycling of air. And then at night, it flips, where the outside is really cool, so the air sinks, and the air in the middle rises. And so they're able to passively regenerate or refresh the air every 40 to 90 minutes. Fascinating way of regulating the oxygen in their mounds. And so Mick Pierce, taking inspiration from these termites, created the Eastgate Centre in Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe. And when we compare that building to other complexes of offices and malls, it uses 30% less energy in comparison to other similar buildings. So fascinating stories. I guess the question is, can we learn from nature-inspired innovations when it comes to effective communication?
So one of the things we've talked about is how you create a vision and a kind of example of what things would look like. We're going to do a series of questions now for each person. But Patrick, you talked about audience and marketing. So you've learned some things on your way about, I think you call it empathy marketing, which is all about making that connection to people.
Yeah, so of course, I think that in terms of effective communication, storytelling is one thing that is really important. But I think that it goes beyond that. And I think that marketing can really be one of the tools that we use to become effective communicators. And I found it fascinating to look into that world and learn from that world. One of the concepts that I came across was something called empathy marketing. So empathy marketing is a strategy that focuses on understanding and connecting with customers on an emotional level, rather than just focusing on selling products or services. It involves putting yourself in your customer's shoes, understanding their needs, and tailoring your marketing efforts to resonate with their emotions and values. One concept or one principle that we can use in conjunction with that is something that I came across called the pleasure-pain principle. And the pleasure-pain principle states that as human beings, we're typically, when we buy into something with our time, money, and attention, moving in one of two directions. We're either moving towards a perceived pleasure or away from a perceived pain. Now, most people would definitely buy into something that helps them move away from a perceived pain. So my suggestion is that, if we're trying to make an impact, could we do that by understanding our audiences? What is the current pain or pain point or challenge that they are going through in their lives? Not in a week's time or a year's time or in 2050, right now. And how can we use our product services as vehicles when it comes to sustainability, conservation, energy transfer? How can we use that as a vehicle to help them achieve the transformation that they want to achieve? So, there's lots of different frameworks, including copywriting frameworks, which I came across, which I thought was fascinating. I see them as always communication hacks. There's one called PAS, Problem, Agitate, Solution, and another called AIDA, Awareness, Interest, Desire, Action. I think the marketers in the room will be aware of this. I only came across it about a year or two ago. And I thought it was very fascinating, a brilliant way to be able to actually understand how we help people take an action and move forward.
I'd like to build on the pain-pleasure principle, just because that sounded rather fascinating.
One of the interesting ways of thinking about why stories are important and how I see it is that, again, from a scientific point of view, as human beings, we're always trying to move towards a perceived pleasure or away from a perceived pain. The catch to that is that we're trying to do it with the least amount of energy possible. And so what stories do is that they time compress experience and information in a way that's really easy for people to take in, like in a amuse-bouche, a little hors d'oeuvre, right? So that's the importance of a great story. It gives people lessons that are learned and earned in a time-compressed format. So I think great stories, of course, I'm biased, nature-inspired innovations, I think is a great way to get people's awareness and interest. And then tapping into the power of marketing. For me, one of the areas that I'm quite interested in is direct response marketing. And that's by getting people to see a piece of content and actually engage with it, enjoy it, and then take an actual action. If you're looking for people to get more insights from, the three people I would recommend are Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels, Dr. Myron Golden, he's got a fantastic YouTube channel, I would highly recommend that, and lastly, the Think Media podcast that's run by Sean Cannell.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you're looking for more great content, then check out this next video. Thanks for watching.